Plugging in. Good evening. It is February 25th, 2026, and we are here for a council study session on police department operational overview and cybersecurity. Just so everybody knows, I think most people here know, but these study sessions are for the purpose of council obtaining information from staff and having interchange. Appreciate staff here for hours to help us understand subjects that undoubtedly we can others. It's not a session in which we take comments from the public. We're not also can't give direction at a meeting like this, so there's no action specifically that we take, and that's the reason we don't take a vote. Otherwise, take a vote matters. So that in mind, I don't know which is the gentleman turn it over to.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening. Chief Rafael Gutierrez, I'm here with Deputy Chief Jeff Fisher. Tonight we're going to provide council with an overview of the operations of the police department here in Louisville. Our hope is that the presentation will provide some information, some understanding on the services that we provide, our structure, some achievements, as well as some aspirations. So just for a housekeeping item, we'll get through our presentation, and then at the end we'll be happy to entertain or answer any questions. State-of-the-art technology, well-trained officers and staff, up-to-date equipment, so that we can deliver the best possible service to the community. We seek to continue to deliver what Division Chief Miller has coined high-value services for our community. And so again, we incorporate that in many good things that we're doing. And I just wanted to point out that, to show that we're meeting the standards that are set forth in our mission, values, and vision. We were formally recognized as a professional organization by the Colorado Association of Chiefs of Police. Initially in 2018, we received accreditation through that organization. And then in 2024, we were reaccredited, meeting the same standards of professionalism that the CACP has set forth. So really significant accomplishment, really shows that we do adhere to standards of operation and make sure that we're always looking towards those standards to guide us in what we're doing. I just want to kind of highlight a few achievements that happened in 2024. As you probably are aware, staffing has been a tremendous hurdle for a lot of public safety organizations, but through the hard work of our staff, we were able to hire a total of 12 new police employees last year. That actually brought us to full staffing for the first time in many years. As of December 24, we were at full staffing in all of our workers. So that was a phenomenal accomplishment. We're proud to management system called Frontline. So that helped take us from a paper-based system into a web-based system in which we're able to manage our training records. We're able to manage our professional and administrative files. We've also created a portal through the city website on our webpage, on our channel of the webpage, in which community members can relay commendations, compliments, or relay any concerns that they may have through that portal. It goes directly into the system, which helps for tracking and for accountability purposes. So that was another undertaking that we were able to successfully implement last year. We started an e-bike patrol program, purchased 3 e-bikes. We trained 3 officers and 2 open space rangers. So they are now certified through the Law Enforcement Bicycle Association, patrolling tactics, how to ride safely, and things of that nature. So that was kind of a kickoff to that program last year. We developed a marketing and recruitment campaign to address our staffing challenges. We created 3 recruitment videos, which were very well done, to highlight our department, highlight our community, and really try to draw interest into our organization. We received over $320,000 in federal and state grants. So that funding helped to support the co-responder services, some in-service training, create some high visibility traffic and DUI enforcement opportunities throughout the year, as well as purchasing various items of equipment. We moved our patrol scheduling to a platoon model, which means that we are kind of split equally. Half of our department works Sunday through Wednesday. The other half is Wednesday through Saturday, which provides 24-hour coverage. But it also helps us to implement a common day on Wednesday, which we're now utilizing for training purposes. So half of our department trains on one Wednesday of the month. The second half trains on the second Wednesday of the month, in which it's 10 hours of training covering post requirements, different types of curriculum and information that they need to maintain their certification, as well as to enhance their skills and abilities. We conducted a total of 23 formal community presentations and attended an additional 39 community events throughout the year last year. That's a credit to Scott Moore and his outreach efforts, but more importantly, also just our focus on engaging with the community and making sure that we're present and establishing those relationships. We did archive and digitize some old microfiche records. So that project has been completed. That was a tremendous undertaking by our administrative services manager, Jen Kenny, and her team. But it was really taking an antiquated way of maintaining those records, moving it into a more contemporary way of doing that. And then we also created a guiding document for our agency that really spans the next 3 years, 25 through 2028. It was meant to replace a previous document that had been in place that covered 2017 through 2021. So we use that kind of as a foundation when we built upon it, and then also wanted to acknowledge the accomplishments that had been achieved from that previous document. So collaboratively, the department leadership team, we developed specific goals for 2025 for our agency. You'll find that they center around common themes of community engagement and partnerships, service delivery, as well as recruiting the best candidates and retaining our incredible staff. We're looking at innovative ways to accomplish all of our missions. So the goals that we have are very specific and intentional. They align with our value statement, our mission, and our objectives. And so you'll see prioritizing proactive policing, crime prevention, and increased visibility, supporting community policing principles. So we're going to focus on traffic, pedestrian, and bicycle safety. We're going to use data and statistics to increase our overall contacts by 5% from the previous year. So it gives us an achievable point, a specific point that we're targeting in terms of increasing our enforcement, our visibility. We want to participate more in community events. So I mentioned the number of events that we attended in 2024. We're going to look to increase that by 5% in 2025. We've created an initiative called the SHIELD Initiative, in which it really frames our community policing model, the intention of our department to engage with the community, and that was created by Division Chief Miller and Scott Moore. We presented that to our staff earlier this year to kick that off. It involves, again, a lot of the community policing that I mentioned here. We're also in line with what Colorado and the nation have experienced over the last few years. Within 2023, 2024, those numbers actually improved in terms of the rate of auto theft was decreasing, but it still is an issue, and it's still a crime that does occur within our community and its surrounding areas. And so we're focusing on that specific type of crime to meet some of these goals. We want to develop and enhance partnerships with public safety and community focused organizations. We're going to continue to partner with those organizations for regional public safety operations, emergency preparedness, investigations, mental health support services. And we're looking to implement one new initiative this year that falls under that umbrella. So those are wide ranging areas, but I think there's a lot of specific things that we can hone in on and focus on one new initiative this year. Like I mentioned before, the co-respondent program is our initiative for 24. We were successful in that. Again, we want to deliver high value service, so we want to seek to achieve 90% satisfaction rating in our performance, our overall performance, as it relates to city community surveys. On the most recent survey, we scored 87% overall, so we want to bump that number up to at least 90%. So that's our goal and that's our objective. So we do have a specific number that we're looking to achieve there. And enhancing recruitment and retention practices. Like I mentioned, as of December, we were fully staffed. We are now down one officer. We look for other opportunities in another state. And so we know that there's a constant ebb and flow with our staffing. And so we don't want to lose sight of that being an initiative that we have to remain on top of, remain engaged with prospective candidates, and really promote our department as a place to work. And then lastly, we want to seek innovative ways to increase use of technology and data analysis to enhance our service delivery capability. So looking at technology, working with the IT department and other partners, just trying to see what can we do better with technology to help to enhance our resources, to help make us more effective and more efficient. Our department structure, I kind of added the organizational chart there. You can kind of see the hierarchy and the different roles and positions that people have within the department. But overall, we have 35 total sworn certified officers. 28 are assigned to patrol. We have 4 assigned to detectives. We have 1 division chief, 1 deputy chief, and 1 police chief. That makes up the chiefs make up our command and executive staff. 5.5 full-time employees, support staff position. We have an administrative services manager. We have 3 record staff and 1.5 full-time employees that are our evidence custodians. We also have 2 non-certified uniform staff, which consists of our code enforcement as well as our police support technician. We have our crime prevention specialist and public information officer. And then we have 1 senior administrative assistant to the chief. So that encompasses our department. 45 individuals work for the Louisville Police Department in various roles and various capacities. I'm going to turn it over to Deputy Chief Fisher. Our department is divided into 2 distinct divisions. So we have our operations divisions and our services division. So I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Fisher to talk about those divisions.
Thanks, Chief. Good evening, Mayor, council members. So I kind of liken a police department to a restaurant. It's probably not a great analogy, but in a restaurant, you have front of the house staff, and then you have the back of the house staff. Front of the house is usually the hostess or hosts or maitre d', wait staff, management, for the front of the restaurant. And the back of the house, you have kind of the cook, the kitchen manager, and all those folks who do the work on the back end. So in the police department, operations would be uniform services primarily. So they are the ones who are the first ones to respond to calls for service, the first investigators to crimes, the most public facing group that we have, probably in the police department. And so that includes patrol and then code enforcement for us. And then the back of the house is the services division. And so Division Chief Mike Miller, who is actually out at an incident we have going on right now, which is why he's not with us. So you'll have to excuse him. I'm going to kind of speak for him tonight for his part. So he is walking the talk right now. And then the back of the house, he's primarily responsible for all of the uniform services. And then investigations, property and evidence, records. Those are all kind of support services, and they're kind of the back of the house. So once operations creates the work on the front end or fields the work initially on the front end, then our support services staff processes it on the back end. They catalog, intake, and disposal of property and evidence. We process all of our police reports. They're the ones who collaborate with the district attorney's office, municipal court, public records requests, all of those kinds of things. And then, of course, our detectives who investigate almost exclusively felony crimes, not necessarily. Sometimes they might investigate misdemeanor crimes, but mostly their caseload is comprised of felony cases. And then professional standards. So professional standards, that's kind of the dean of students kind of stuff. So that's our internal affairs operations, our accreditation process, some of those things that aren't necessarily police related, but again, back of the house kinds of issues I'm responsible for professional standards. So we touched on that, the three main areas of what administrative services or the services division would be detectives, records, and property and evidence. So we have one detective sergeant. He supervises two, soon to be three detectives, and they handle both persons and property crimes. And then we have our administrative services manager, and that's Jen Kenny, and she is the direct supervisor for evidence and property and evidence and records. So property and evidence, that's P&E. That's where we have 1.5 employees, one full-time evidence technician, Eric Presents, and one part-time technician, Mike Solak. So what they're responsible for is when our officer sees evidence, when he sees property, either an official investigation, or if it's found property, or if someone turns property in that they have found or they want destroyed or something like that. They're the ones who take care of all of that, the intake, the cataloging, and then the disposal of all of that. And so in 2020, property and evidence, 1,177 items, disposed of 1,370 items, and returned 252 items to owners. And that could be either things that have been returned by order of the court, or found property, or something along those lines. But everything altogether, 17,245 items. So as you can see, that's a lot. That's a lot for one full-time person and one half-time person. And then the manager, Jen Kenny, she helps in that capacity as well. We know that that's the exact number of items we have. No runs, no drips, no errors, because we conduct an annual audit of our property and evidence unit. And Jen Kenny, along with Mike and Erica and Scott Moore, who helped with that process as well, just concluded our annual audit. And everything, without one exception, is accounted for, cataloged, properly stored, exactly as it should be. So we're very proud. The records unit, so they are the folks that you will meet if you come into the police department, right behind the glass. They're the first ones there. So they manage and process really all the other work that we produce. Police reports, public records requests, case filings, they prepare all that for misdemeanors and felonies or municipal court, district attorney's office, and then handle all their kind of the primary contact for the public right there at the front window at the police department. So you'll see some figures there. Just in 2024, our record staff facilitated 573 public records requests. That is an ever-growing thing as technology, as we grow and things change. When the body camera law came into effect, as you guys all know, in 2017, so now they are now responsible for body cam footage redaction, processing, and then fulfilling those requests as we get those as well. So that's a new piece that law enforcement really has never had until now. So their job grows as they processed 169 background check requests, almost $6,000 in records request payments for police reports and other records, and 2,116 police reports that our staff generated. So they too, like property and evidence, are very busy. And then our detective bureau. So that is our major crimes unit of the police department. And that's comprised of Sergeant Clark and then 3 detectives. We've been short one position in there, but we will have a new detective starting in there very soon, probably in March. That's an incumbent officer. That's not a new hired person. That's an incumbent officer who's going to be assigned to detectives. So primarily they handle felonies, but they do occasionally help out with misdemeanors. And they're also a resource to our patrol staff. So if you need court orders for something, or a search warrant, or production of records warrant, or something that patrol just doesn't necessarily field on a daily basis, our detectives are really our subject matter experts for court orders, warrants, and things like that. So they're assigned approximately 15 new cases every month. And there's a steady stream of that, because again, this is part of the back end of the house. So as operations brings the cases in on the front end and detectives work them on the back end, that's where those figures come from there. So they handle everything from motor vehicle theft, burglaries, and other property crimes, sometimes an attempted homicide case, which we had last month. A guy decided to try to drown his girlfriend in her bathtub. So it's never a dull moment for detectives, just as it is for and then our administrative services manager, Jen Kenny, also kind of our ad hoc accreditation manager. Really, all the police staff has a hand in that, but she kind of takes the lead in terms of compiling the documentation. She's really good with organization and making sure all the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted. She also she was responsible for the property and evidence on it. So she's a stickler for detail, and that's exactly who we need to handle these things. I oversee all internal affairs investigations, or more serious investigations, which are Class 1 professional standard investigations. I investigate personally, or Class 2 professional standard investigations, which are allegations of policy violations or misconduct, things that are just of a little minor nature. I will usually have Mike Miller investigate those, or perhaps one of our patrol sergeants will take those. And the chief kind of touched on this already. This is just a glimpse of our patrol operations. So right now we're looking at 32 personnel there. So we have 6 patrol sergeants and 6 patrol corporals. So as the chief mentioned, we have officers assigned to either Sunday through Wednesday or Wednesday through Saturday. So if you look at those numbers there, that means we have 1 sergeant and 1 corporal on each shift. We have day swings and night shift, A side of the week, day swings and nights on B side of the week. So that way we have continuity of supervision 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then our officers, our police support technician, Lindsay Steele, and we're helping Lindsay broaden her horizons a little bit. We just sent her to a crime scene investigation course so she can learn how to collect fingerprints, swap her DNA, take shoe impression castings, all that is crime scene stuff. She was just fascinated by that. She was beaming about that this morning, what she was telling me about it. So that's really a neat opportunity. We're lucky to have her. 1 code enforcement officer, and then our 2 Boulder County correspondents. Again, those are our shifts there. On our platoon schedule, A side is Sunday through Wednesday, B side is Wednesday through Saturday, and we overlap on Wednesdays, which really is great. That's a pretty common theme for law enforcement. Most departments use Wednesday as a common day, and so half the department will staff street field calls for service and handle just day-to-day police work, and then the other half will train. So our patrol fleet, we currently have 27 marked patrol units, and then our 1 marked electric vehicle, which I'm sure you've all seen, our Mach-E Mustang, and with that fantastic wrap that it has on it. We have to credit Mike Miller for that. That was actually he came up with that design, and we like it. It's pretty cool. And then we have unmarked and administrative units that we have as well. We just this month, we were test driving an electric Blazer, Chevy Blazer, which is comparable to the Ford Explorer, which is kind of traditionally been our patrol vehicle. But the Blazer is making a really competitive presence, and we do offer that in EV. And so Chief and Mike and I each took a turn driving that for a number of days, and it's really a neat vehicle. And then this Friday, we're going to test drive a Chevy Equinox as well that we might look at for administrative staff, professional staff, things like that. This is just kind of gives you a snapshot of what we do in a given year. So 2024 was not really an anomaly. It was a pretty average year. So as you can see, over 19,000 incident responses, which means essentially between the work the officers initiated and our calls for service to come to the communication center, we handled 19,000 total incidents, 15,000 dispatch calls for service. And then the breakdown of our crimes against persons. Crimes against persons, so assault, sexual assault, robbery would be crimes against persons, and then our crimes against property, theft, burglary, motor vehicle theft, trespassing, those would be crimes against property, and then crimes against society are like public order crimes, so disorderly conduct, something like that. Trespassing on public property. When arrests. So we do resolve a number of things through corrective action outside of arrests. Our corresponders have been instrumental in that. They've been really fantastic at helping us find other resolutions and get people to services outside of just this traditional criminal justice system. Yes, sir.
Does this include traffic or is that?
No, that would be included in there because when our officers do some kind of traffic enforcement, they'll radio that to dispatch, so it'll be logged as an incident.
Is that which categories?
It would be included in the over 19,000. So the 15,606, that would represent somebody calling into police dispatch and asking for a specific response. So there's over 4,000 that would be considered like self-initiated activity.
Okay.
And so the traffic contacts would fall within that 4,000.
But it's not in one of the crime categories?
No, these are all crimes that are reported back through NIBRS to the federal government as far as our crime statistics go. So that would be, specific, like a crime against a person would be an assault, crime against property would be a theft, against society would be disturbing or something to that effect. So yeah, so traffic contacts are not represented. And I just do want to make a point that looking over these numbers over the last 4 years, we're actually making a return to numbers that we saw pre-2020. So this actually represents a decrease across all categories in these types of incidents. Again, we're back to pre-2020 numbers. So we did see an increase between 2020 and 2023. Now we see a decrease.
So can you just give us a sense of the 15,000, whatever the vast majority of that doesn't fall into one of the categories you go down on this? What are they? What are the things that?
So it could be like a medical assist, it could be a welfare check, it could be a suspicious incident that doesn't generate a police report. So when you see the numbers like crimes against person, property, and society, those are actually investigations that we initiated. So those are case report numbers that fall within those specific categories. So a number of things could be area patrol that actually generates an incident, or something called a parking violation or suspicious incident or a code enforcement violation. Those would go under the dispatch calls for service because you have a specific reporting person calling dispatch, and dispatch is sending out the resources to address that concern.
Got it.
I can touch on this one real briefly. So we initiated it on our social media channels, patrolling the numbers, and that's just kind of a snapshot of what we're dealing with on a monthly basis. So our first one was launched in January. So you can see over the month of January, we had 1,185 dispatch calls for service, 162 reports were taken, which means that we pulled the national case number for documentation, 98 arrests / summons. Majority of those are probably summons versus physical arrest. And then we are separating out the traffic contacts. So 221 traffic contacts were initiated by officers in January. So, it's kind of a work in progress. If there's additional information that community desires or council desires to see, we can certainly look at moving it to incorporating those to that report. So I just want to kind of close with some looking ahead, what our department initiatives might look like. As we do look ahead, we want to make sure that we're always aligning our operations in support of the city as well as the council, the strategies and plans that the council sets forth, city organization sets forth. So we're always cognizant of that. We do want to be innovative and examine contemporary policing initiatives. So we're always looking at publications, we're attending conferences, we're listening through our professional channels. What is industry best standards? What are we moving to? Our profession is dynamic. It's evolving a lot more rapidly now than it ever has been. And so we're always going to try to stay on top of contemporary policing practices. We obviously want to achieve reaccreditation in 2029. It's a 5-year accreditation, so that's another goal of ours. Maintaining those standards, looking to that as guidance for our operations. We recently completed a guiding document that looks at our department in its current state and then outlines kind of where we aspire to be. Document was included as part of your packet. We also have it published as a link on our web page for anybody's viewing interest. The document does not include all aspects of our operation. We consider it also to be a living document. We're going to review that annually to make sure that we're still aligning ourselves with what the needs of the community are, the needs of the department as well. So it's something that is not we're not limited to what the guiding document says. If there's other initiatives or things of importance, we can always incorporate those into a new plan, a new refreshed document. But this really just serves as kind of a generalized framework for what the department is and what we'd like it to become. So in the less than 2 years that I've been here, The leadership team and I, along with other staff, we've looked at potential gaps that have existed at our department, operationally and otherwise. Conducted SWOT analysis to make sure that we're building upon the strengths that currently we have. It really is a collaborative effort as a leadership team at the police department. Say, hey, what do we want to be looking at? What should we be reviewing so that we can become an efficient and effective police department? So that's what the guiding document really entails. Many months of work went into that before we were finally in a position where we felt like we could push it out to the community. A lot of it too has to deal with the challenges related to recruitment and retention. So I think pushing this information out to prospective applicants, prospective candidates, prospective employees, as well as our current employees to know, like, as a command staff, this is what we would like to do. These are things that we're going to be working toward, and making it really, a department that is a department of choice, a department where people want to come work, and really more importantly, where they want to stay. And I think as the leadership team, we really have that as a priority for us. As we want to be engaging with our workforce, we want to create opportunities for them, and we really want to provide the best service possible, as efficiently and as effectively as possible. So it's a document that we're proud of. We think there's a lot of good ideas, a lot of things in there that we really truly believe in. We also wanted to make sure that we didn't put pie in the sky ideas. These are real world examples that other departments are using, other departments are doing to make themselves better. And we ask the question, like, why not us? We can do the same things, maybe on a smaller scale, but I think those opportunities still exist here as well. And then the last thing I just want to touch on is we are creating an annual report. We hope to push that out to highlight the good work that people are doing on a yearly basis. It'll have data, it'll have information, initiatives that we worked on throughout the year. And once that template has been created, we're going to update that. And our goal is to push that out every year for the sake of transparency, as well as bringing people up to speed and up to date as to what we're doing. So a lot of good information there. So we are happy to answer any questions that you may have.
What we're gonna do, go ahead and get comments from the person.
Very, first question on your goals. You had a goal for 5% increase in arrests for theft or auto theft. Curious how you arrived at that versus, a goal of what I misspoke and said a decrease in auto thefts. Or is it theft of an auto or theft inside of an automobile?
It'd be a theft of an auto.
Of an actual auto. So is there a reason why your goal was on the arrest versus on the decrease of the actual?
Yeah, so I think the reason that we did, so like prevention activities and prevention measures, that we may not be able to have specific data to say, well, we prevented or we reduced the number of auto thefts. So that's more prevention, and there's a lot of other variables that we don't control in terms of prevention. And obviously we're doing crime prevention information, we're putting presentations out there to try to safeguard property. And so when we looked at from a way to be able to quantify the numbers, we felt like looking at arrests and enforcement activity for auto-related type offenses. So it could be the auto theft, it could be other crimes that may be committed with a stolen vehicle. We're tying all that together. So we can.
I guess it was a little confusing because I feel like if you had 100 more cars stolen, you might have more arrests. Would that be a bad metric? It would seem that like
it would be
if they were correlated in the negative,
Right.
So anyways, just a thought on that. You mentioned bikes and e-bikes and kind of, but not in your presentation, didn't really talk much about the experience having it. This is very wonderful thing we get to talk about in Louisville. It really does not escape me. But have you guys seen an increase in interactions with our youth? Mostly it's our youth that is the public concern. around their behavior and not obeying traffic laws and being on the wrong kind of bikes and all that. So we had a big conversation about this and was wondering if you guys have seen higher amounts of contact, better education, better behavior, fewer complaints, like if you have any kind of report on how the e-bike world is.
So the e-bike concern is well known across the department. As part of our end of shift summaries and that supervising to pass on information, any contacts or incidents that may involve an e-bike. And I know that's part of what we talked about before, like, you know, we want to see what the problem really is and the scope of that. And so I think potentially with the weather, I haven't seen much in the last several months about that situation. I know that we are continuing to work and educate people, and we're talking with the school district, and we're coordinating bike safety events with the school district and with neighborhood groups as well. So the last several months, there have not been a lot of e-bike related incidents or contacts. Our department and our patrol officers are aware of that, like that is a priority, and they're aware of the directive to go out and educate and make these contacts, and not just, you know, dismiss it as once a kid on the bike, like actually make the contact, talk about what they're doing good and what they're doing bad. Like there are positive encounters too.
Yeah.
And you can see somebody say, hey, great job on your bike, they're following the rules, we appreciate that. So that's been a directive that we pushed out to patrol, and they have received that, and they were doing that type of activity proactively during the warmer months. Like I said, I think with the weather, it's decreased significantly. We've taken a much more conscious approach of that situation, that issue. We had a discussion at the we had a Boulder County Chiefs Association meeting with state legislators, and Chief Mathis from Erie had the same concerns. Chief Redford had the same concerns. And so collectively, we're sharing ideas. We're talking about it. It is a topic of concern for multiple communities. So it is on the forefront.
You didn't mention this topic, but if you could just give us a sort of reminder of, you know, your department's policies around like immigration and, you know, actions with, you know, pull people over, or engage with someone on the sidewalk, like just kind of what you're telling your people as far as what their role is in documenting people's citizenship.
Sure. Yeah. No. So for all intents and purposes, nothing has changed from our operational perspective. We're not inquiring or asking as to residency status, immigration status, things of that nature. If we're encountering people, we're focused specifically on, you know, the elements of a public safety issue or a municipal or state crime. And so even when we're contacting people, we're not gathering information. We're prohibited from taking custody of somebody on a civil immigration detainer, and so we continue to follow that practice. We had a meeting with the Boulder County Chiefs and the District Attorney back in December as well, and discussed this very topic. And we take the same position as the District Attorney's Office and our other regional law enforcement agencies in terms of how we're managing that. We certainly are not reporting arrestees to federal authorities. So we take custody of an individual. Again, number one, we're not questioning their status. And number two, we're not making any of those reported contacts with federal authorities. So it's been kind of a status quo. You know, we've not had any contact with any federal organization coming into Louisville. I know that some surrounding communities have had that experience. We've not. It's my hope that if federal authorities are coming into the community, that they are deconflicting and talking with us and coordinating those efforts. We don't have any obligation to help them enforce federal laws or immigration detainers or things of that nature. But, you know, we certainly are here to keep the peace. We're certainly here to assist with, you know, peripheral issues that might arise. But on the other hand, like nothing prevents us from cooperating or working with them if we have somebody on a federal criminal immigration detainer. Like there may be instances where we are authorized and allowed to contact federal authorities and the person that we have on a criminal detainer. But outside of that, we're not engaged in any kind of prolonged detention or things of that nature. Like we can make the notification and then we continue on the course of business. That we already had shared. So to respond if they choose to, but we're not going to engage in prolonged detention. I think the biggest message that I wanted to relay to my staff is that we understand that there's a great deal of anxiety and fear that's going across the country now. And we really want to encourage people who need our services to contact us without any kind of fear of retaliation or without any fear that, you know, we are going to involve immigration officials of that nature. So we still want to make sure that we have the confidence of the community. They know they can come to us in their time of need, and we don't want people to be victimized and be afraid to interact with law enforcement, because a simple interaction with law enforcement should not lead someone to believe that immigration status is going to come into play. So, you know, we're committed to equal enforcement of the law. We want to make sure that all members of our community are served equally, irregardless of their legal status in the United States. And that's been the approach that we're taking. I know that it's consistent with other agencies in the county as well as the DA's office. We do have information that's been pushed out for community members from the DA's office that goes into more detail about their rights and things of that nature.
Last question, how has lattes with a law enforcement officer gone?
It's gone great.
That's what you call it.
Yes, well, I'm gonna start calling it that. Because I like that, it's catchy. Yeah, it's great. We have some great conversations, you know, throughout the community every month, first Wednesday, we're out there talking with people and having lattes and coffees. So it's gone really well.
Cool. Thanks, man.
Start with little questions. So when you count your staff, do you count trainees?
Yes, so they would have been hired to fill a vacant position, so we do include them within our.
Then a couple little things I noticed in the document. One, you mentioned about the possibility of less lethal equipment to patrol officers. Just curious, if you could say a little bit more to that.
Sure. Yeah, so less lethal equipment would refer to, you know, like a taser device or pepper spray, or a baton, or ammunition that is less likely to cause the death. These are lower level uses of force. It kind of bridges the gap from a hands-on method to deadly force, and so it gives officers a tool to be able to intervene in certain situations. So we also have a device called the bowler wrap, which is used, you know, to be able to secure an individual who may be armed from a distance, so that we're not forcing confrontation and they're not within a range of injuries. So we're looking at those types of pieces of equipment to be able to bridge that gap, so that way the officers have resources and tools to be able to minimize the risks of death.
So the idea is more about altering
To officers in the field.
But I'm just curious, I mean, I've lived in a couple of places where some officers just are not armed. Sure.
Yeah, so I mean, so our use of force paradigm, it goes anywhere from general control, which is man presence, verbal skills, de-escalation, to hands-on, to less lethal, to deadly force. So that's a paradigm that we operate within, and so we want to make sure that we do have resources in place to address every one of those options. And so, like the de-escalation component, that comes with training, that comes with mentoring, that comes with oversight, all the way to obviously deadly force.
And then, so as I understand, you have people policy where some staff can bring cars home.
So no, we have not implemented any, we haven't implemented anything. So in our 2017 master plan, that was one of the goals and objectives, to create a 1-to-1 ratio for a take-home car program. We're not at that point. Currently, those that are allowed to take their vehicle home are supervisory staff. So corporal, sergeants, division chief, deputy chief, and so part of that idea is it creates a sense of readiness. It creates a sense for an immediate response to an event from irregardless of where you're at. So, you know, not all of our officers live within Louisville. Actually, most don't. But it allows for them to have their equipment or even another region event. But we're not in a position where we have a one. We're exploring that. We're exploring the option of potentially allowing those officers during their work week to take their vehicle home. So Sunday to Wednesday officer would have use of that vehicle during that time. And then the Wednesday to Saturday officer would take that same vehicle to their residence. So we're exploring that. It's not something that that we have implemented at this point, full scale. But we look at it as a potential benefit for public safety as well as potential recruitment and retention strategy too. But we evaluate.
Correct, that's something. One little question, there's a mention about 30 by 30 initiatives. I'm just wondering if you have.
Yeah, so the 30 by 30 initiative is an initiative that it's a national initiative at this point in which agencies look to focus recruitment efforts on bringing women into the profession. So the target goal is 30% of your staff is women by the year 2030. And so several departments have adopted that initiative. It's something that we're looking at. You know, certainly we want to bring diversity to our department, to our community. As it stands now, we are probably the most diverse department in the city organization. But we really want to support initiatives to bring non-traditional individuals in the profession. So women, people of color, and things like that, because there's such value and benefit to having different perspectives in policing for problem solving and prevention. So that's what the 30 initiative.
Thanks first for the presentation, very helpful. Wondering if one or both of you could just speak to sort of what are the overall trends you're seeing out there, what's going on in Louisville, as well as sort of greater Denver metro, Front Range, how have things changed post-COVID?
Yeah, so I think that, some of the numbers show that in general, many crimes are on the decrease since 2020. There was a significant increase in 2020 and 2021. But a lot of those numbers are now on the downslope. So in Louisville, we still are seeing property crime is our #1 criminal offense that we're taking reports on. The numbers, like I mentioned, they're very similar to where we were at in 2020 in terms of numbers of crimes in those different categories. And so I think that we're not seeing some of the same trends that other communities are seeing. We're not dealing with gun violence in Louisville, but other communities are dealing with a lot of gun violence and violence related crimes. Auto theft is still a high occurring incident. It's just not as high as it was 3 or 4 years ago. So, we are partners with some other agencies in a group called Battle, which is Beat Auto Theft Task Force. So it's a task force made of multiple agencies within the state. It's led by Colorado State Patrol, but our detective unit, they meet with them frequently. And so that group is still seeing, pretty high rates of auto theft. And so it's still a very, very prevalent type of crime that we're experiencing here as well as in surrounding communities. Which again, I think is why we focus on auto theft as a specific crime that we wanted to address. It's also considered a Part 1 crime. So for statistical purposes, it's one of the target offenses that we're looking at. In Louisville specifically, I think traffic safety is one of the big concerns, both vehicle, bikes, as well as pedestrian. So, we're fortunate to have a community where traffic concern is our primary concern, but we're not dealing with shootings and things like that, where some communities are. So we do enjoy a very safe community, and I credit it to the hard work of the officers of the police department and the relationships that we have in the community. But from my perspective, that's what we see.
Yeah, I think, from a day-to-day perspective, mental illness and mental health issues and people in mental health crisis continue to be a concern for us and an ongoing challenge. Our co-responder program has been just incredible in helping us to kind of bridge that gap and provide some resources that traditionally law enforcement just isn't prepared to offer. Fentanyl, I will tell you, is still a concern. As a parent, as a father of 3 daughters who are now grown, it absolutely terrifies me. It's not a pervasive problem here, but it does exist. So we still equip all of our officers with Narcan, with naloxone, doses that they can administer. And in fact, when we had our last award ceremony, those of you who attended that, we gave out a handful of awards to our staff who have saved people's lives with naloxone. So, that is always a concern that is there, but yeah, I think those are really the top things that we see on an ongoing basis.
On serious crimes, how much of what you're seeing is sort of people coming in from other jurisdictions elsewhere? And how much, if any, is for homegrown use from them?
I think we see both. I anecdotally, I would say that more of it comes here from somewhere else. But that's not to say that we don't have it here. Guy I talked about earlier who tried to drown his girlfriend in a bathtub, live here. So I'm not gonna say that it doesn't happen, but we do see more of, I think, what we would refer to as traditional street crime kind of issues usually come to us from outside this community.
Do you think that's been sort of consistent level? Is that changing at all?
I think on a per scale basis, I think it's pretty much the same. The 10 years I've been here, I've always referred to Louisville as a diamond in the rough, because it really is. Louisville is just a nice community. We strive to keep it that way, but we are, in the middle of a metropolitan area that are not diamonds. They are. So it's a constant challenge, but I think that's pretty much the same. I think it's pretty constant.
That's really helpful, and it sort of leads into my next question, which is there somewhere where you guys are aware of other departments that do sort of a monthly or quarterly sort of summary statistical kind of report on, what kind of like information you brought, what kind of contacts are you having, how many are resolving arrests, and so on, but sort of just get a pulse on what's going on. And the reason I ask is I feel like we don't hear as much from you guys as we hear from other departments within the city. And so sometimes, except for occasions like this, which are great, we don't always get a sense of sort of what's going on in the police department.
Yeah, so there's software available that can take our call for service data or report data and kind of create like heat maps or different GIS type features that you can pinpoint where crime is occurring. What we're trying to do with patrolling the numbers is kind of like that. It's an internal thing that we're doing, where we don't have to purchase software to know how to extract that data to start giving a snapshot of what we're doing. Because I would agree with you. I think that's something that the community is wanting to know about. You're wanting to know about, just to see what the trends are. What are we experiencing here? So we don't have mapping capability right now that we created on our social media posts, but it's not hard to do. We can certainly look at doing things like that. I think there's value in that transparency, and that I think it's good for people to know, like, things do happen here. We're not immune from crime. We're not immune from situations and issues happening. And I think sometimes because it is a great community, like, we forget that. So I think that's something that, as we progress forward, like, those are things that we're looking at. Like, we want to create dashboards even for our purposes. Like, what are we seeing? There's technology that does all that, which obviously comes at a cost, but there is value.
That's really helpful. Just sort of thinking about our role as council, are there particular ordinances or policies or code pieces that you think we have that are particularly good or troublesome or unhelpful?
So, I've been here less than 2 years, but what I've seen is we do have, an example is I'll be working with the judge and the city prosecutor to revisit our animal code because it was last revisited in 1977. And so we have things on the books that have not really been brought into contemporary times. And so, looking at it from a process perspective and how that impacts our service delivery and maybe some things that we're required to do that, we're proper in 1985, but like in 2025, it might just be something we're doing because we've always had to do it. So I think there's opportunities, a lot of different ordinances, a lot of different processes. I think we have to take it step by step because there's also a lot of other work that needs to be done. You know, and I think that, you know, one of the discussions we had last year was bike ordinances. I think that's something that needs to be revisited. We mentioned it to the state legislators, but that's something even at the state level that should be brought more in line with what we're seeing in today's day and age. 2017 is when that was enacted, and from 2017 to 2025, a lot of things have changed. A lot more people have e-bikes. There's a lot different types of e-bikes. So those are examples, I think, of areas where we can certainly look at that. But again, it takes time, it takes effort to be able to revisit that. But yeah, like as an example, I know for impoundment processes and things like that, have a meeting next Monday with the judge and the city prosecutor.
So great. And then nothing in particular stands out as being, you know, sort of major impediment to you guys getting your report done.
Well, it's interesting, you know, some of the, you mentioned, what does it look like in terms of other communities and what are we seeing, what are we hearing? And that is you know, e-bikes are a common and contemporary issue, not just for our community, but for our neighbors as well. We heard that from Chief Matheson earlier, from Chief Basher, Lafayette. So as some of these social trends emerge and the challenges that come along with that, you know, it's not unique to us or to another community. We're all kind of seeing the same things. So that's why those affiliations are so important, because like the legislative breakfast that we had with all those chiefs and the legislators, everybody was expressing largely the same thing. They're hearing the same things from their communities: traffic concerns, e-bike safety. Those are all contemporary challenges, and so we're all looking for the best ways to address those.
And then the final piece is just on the guiding document. Contextually, how do you see that? Is that like a strategic plan? Is it something that you're gonna be coming to us sort of to look for the policy level approval on? Is it internal? Where does that sort of fit in?
Yes, so the guiding document, I don't necessarily look at it as a strategic plan. And the reason I say that is because we didn't really highlight a strategy on how we're going to implement a lot of these things. It was more of an aspirational document that said these are initiatives that we are going to be looking at. These are things that we would like to integrate into our operations. Some of them will come before you because there will be costs associated with those items or those initiatives. Other things are going to be internal. The 30 by 30 initiative does require council support and other stakeholder support. But you know, looking at low level equipment items or things like that, that may not come before you just based on the threshold of spending. It may be, you know, a certain piece of equipment that we need, and it's a very inexpensive piece of equipment that probably wouldn't come to you. But large scale initiatives would probably come to you simply because they do carry a large cost with them. And then maybe there's concerns about like what that initiative looks like. Does it align with council's vision? Does it align with what the community is looking for as well? And so I think as we look at those initiatives, we're always evaluating, like, is this something that we should be having a discussion about? Yes or no? The idea is we're going to go through the city manager's office as well. And so these aren't things that we're just going to outright implement. Like, we're not just going to jump through a large scale initiative and just push that out there, right? There are things that we would consider in sort of in our discussion.
And I assume, and I know, I'm sure you guys have heard from folks on this, the drone program, and also I think sort of expansion of the license plate reader program, I assume would be something that would be in that category of additional discussion.
Yeah, I would imagine so. And so for the license plate reader, obviously we had direction last year about what that looked like. So there's been no expansion of that program. That would come before you for a decision on what that program looks like moving forward. As far as the drone program, we don't have a drone program. We don't have a drone. And so I think the city owns one drone and Public Works has that in their possession. So what we're doing in terms of the drone operation is we actually, Deputy Chief Fisher applied last year for a state grant for persons who wander. And so that deals with aging populations, people with dementia, Alzheimer's, who may have, you know, left their home, left their care facility, and have now gone missing. And so through that state program, there was some funding available to acquire equipment to assist in the search and rescue of those individuals. And so part of that funding we're hoping to use for an actual drone. Drones range anywhere from $3,000 to $12,000 each. And so we were awarded $10,000 for that. And so that can be applied toward a program geared towards search and rescue, finding a missing person, things like that. And so from a drone perspective, like we look at this program as kind of in phases. Like you're in a crawl phase, a walk phase, and a run phase. We're not even crawling right now. But when we implement something like this, it's going to be very kind of base level. Like, let's get a program in place. Let's set a good foundation to provide a resource for our officers, to provide public safety, community safety, locate missing individuals, create a safety net when they're clearing a building or engage with a hazardous situation, a hazmat situation. They need to observe from a distance, things like that. So there's tremendous amounts of benefits to having that resource available. So our vision for it is obviously acquiring the equipment. And then we have to look at software to manage that. And the software that we're looking at right now, we've not heard any discussion nor proposal about AI being involved in that or used in it. We did a proposal for, we got a demo from Flock on a product that they're offering. And their product is called Drone as a First Responder, which I would equate to that run phase. Like it's very sophisticated, very elaborate. It essentially replaces a first responder because you can deploy that without even an officer going to look at the situation. But what we're at is a crawl phase. We're looking at equipment, we're looking at software to manage flight records, to get data from the drone itself about battery life and things like that. If there's a public safety incident where we deploy a drone and we have footage, like we're storing that under case number, and so it's tied to a criminal justice event. So records retention would apply based on the type of criminal. So yes, a program like that, there is a cost associated. Again, it's something that if there's a concern with, which I believe there is, we're certainly happy to sit down before we implement anything on a large scale. But we look at it as a tremendous resource and a tremendous piece of equipment that can benefit everybody in the community, can benefit the officers to have available to them. Currently, we have to call other agencies into Louisville when we have the need for a drone. And then we also contract with Boulder Emergency Squad every year to provide search and rescue as well as drone capability. They did assist us with the Holiday Light Parade, just from a crowd management and situational awareness perspective. And it went really well, provided some good overview of the area, just again, for our situational awareness.
Yeah, and I'll just elaborate with the last thing. Is just the concern I'm hearing and that I've heard is just around the data privacy piece, sort of similar to what we talked about with the flock camera.
Yeah.
I don't think, what I've heard, there's a lot of concern for the drone in and of itself, search and rescue, whatever. It's, if that starts to be used to do some sort of routine surveillance, mass surveillance, then the data is leaving the city and going elsewhere. Then I think we're in a sort of similar conversation with flock camera. It sounds like what you're saying, that's
not
even on the
really what
agenda.
we've seen from any of the vendor demos that we've received. So we're in the research phase. We're developing policy. We're looking at costs and things like that. It's nowhere near operational function at all.
Well, thank you. I think this is really super helpful here for you guys.
Thank you, first of all, for the presentation and for modernizing everything with the police department. I mean, you're bringing us into the 21st century. Thank you. On the e-bike, or not the e-bike, sorry, the electric vehicle, police car. One question I had was, have you brought that to the local schools and maybe even preschools to show to the kids so that they know that that is an official police vehicle? Because they usually just look for the white car that says police.
Sure.
So
Yeah,
I want them to feel safe, if they're approached by someone.
That makes sense. So we haven't taken this to school specifically, but we've taken it to a number of community events and interactions with the last year and a half now that we've had it. But we've not done any school presentations specifically.
Okay, well, it would just make them feel more comfortable knowing that.
Sure, I agree.
On the e-bikes, I will say that they are coming back out again. I saw one yesterday on McCaslin. Turn lane from Cherry onto McCaslin going north. And from there, went over to the middle lane, passing cars that were going the speed limit. So he was exceeding the speed limit, zigzagging all around, all the way up the gas. So they are back.
I expected they would be.
Then another question I have on, there's a lot of people have made comments about how to report like noise violations or trash or the vicious dog, some kind of animal issue. Is there an easy way to tell people this is what the regulation is, and this is how you go about reporting?
Yeah, so the Louisville Code of Ordinances are available on the website. And so anytime somebody wants like a specific language, that's the best place to refer them to. And then in terms of reporting that, like to code enforcement or to our department, the non-emergency number.
All
We
right,
get a lot of inquiries too, on our general police department email address about code issues. And so when those come in, I see those and then I route those to Susan Kenny, our code enforcement officer, and ask her to follow up and investigate. And I probably give, we probably get one of those. I would say for somebody who has a concern about a vehicle or a dog, or a dog in a vehicle, or a front counter, sometimes they call on the phone, they do send us emails. But if we're.
okay, good. And then the last one was thanking you again for your cooperation with other communities and working together. And I'm wondering, do you partner with other agencies, not necessarily police departments, but other agencies on emergency response?
So yeah, it's like I mentioned, the Boulder Emergency Squad is who we partner with as well. We have for several years. So they are a support organization which will help search and rescue, which will help with other public safety matters. In the past, we've also partnered with Colorado Rangers Group, which again provides some of that level of support. So outside of public safety like entities, many others, I know that obviously with Boulder County and those resources in different fire districts, but
Yeah, our Office of Emergency Management, our Boulder Office of Emergency Management, I was just on a meeting with them, in fact, the other day, about warning sirens, updating to the warning sirens throughout the county. And so we collaborate with them on that. And then we have the MAX group, the mutual aid command group that meets countywide. And so we're not at every one of those meetings, but we do collaborate on those meetings. Then, of course, our partners at the fire department, we see them all the time. In fact, we've got an officer going to a common training with the fire department here coming up just, I think, next month. So for better response.
And you partner with all these groups for evacuations also?
Yeah,
we partner with them for all emergency management and preparedness planning. So it's a collaborative effort. You know, there's no one organization that can do it independently or on their own from a resource perspective. You know, like we showed the information on any given shift, we have 4 officers. And so 4 officers is going to, that resource is going to go away very quickly in the emergency event. And so we all recognize that, and we know that we have to kind of multiply our resources through cooperation. And collaboration. So a lot of the topics related to emergency management, emergency preparedness, and evacuation. You know, it's never solely one topic. It's always other events, emergencies, maybe regional emergencies. And so we have to prepare and talk about through all of the different types of situations that we may have to deal with. I know, well, we have training tomorrow with the Boulder County Sheriff's Office on an active harbor threat. So we're doing training tomorrow afternoon after the department. So it's always looking at these events that are drawing in regional response. We have to coordinate, we have to build those relationships now versus during a time of crisis. So that's what we're really trying.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's nice being second last because like pretty much anything I was gonna ask you has been asked, so I'm just like, check. So, would you like to go and then I can maybe check off my last few?
No, I like the challenge.
I know she's gonna get, I'm just not gonna do that. More, thank you, not just for the presentation, I think like the other council members, I really appreciate the updates. I mean, hearing from your department more frequently, not just for us, because it is a public meeting. They really do appreciate this. The latte with, what is it, latte with law enforcement? I was gonna say-
Latte with the law.
Latte with law
I love it.
enforcement. You have a coffee with the cop. That is such a fabulous program, and thank you for, really bringing it, being active. I've attended at least one, and all of the officers who come in, like, always come with a smile and a handshake. It's more than just like, do you have questions for us? It's like, we're here, we're the good guys, and it really comes across, so thank you. And just the added engagement I have seen in the last year and a half with the community. I personally have heard a lot of confidence that wasn't there before is there. And that just says so much about two of you and your entire team, and as a representative. I just, like, I love living here, and you guys are a very big part of the reason that I love living in this home, so thank you for that. I just only, I'm also going to build on something that Councilman Fahey was talking about, which is just emergency preparedness, and again, it's mostly because it's a public meeting, and I would like for residents to be able to hear from you, the two of you, so you have 4 officers, let's say, at any given time. If there is any kind of an emergency situation, let's say it is like a natural disaster of some sort, right? It's a major emergency. Their level of empowerment to like notify the greater community or specific component of our community, and just, I think, to give an overall sense of security to the people who maybe don't get an opportunity to engage with you as often. Thanks.
Yeah, so our, obviously, as public safety employees and emergency responders, first responders, we have the ability to push out notifications of an emergency nature. So our officers, our supervisors are always constantly evaluating these dynamic situations and determining at what point is life safety in jeopardy, and then is this interest of the public safety. Decisions we make are always going to be made with the public safety in mind. And so as far as their ability to do it, it's a very simple process. They contact dispatch, they request Everbridge notification to a specific polygon area, and dispatch then can initiate the alert. So again, shelter in place, evacuate the area, things of that nature. Those are all really initiated at the field level. More often than not, it's going to be your field supervisor in most situations, because we're talking about lower level types of situations. In a large scale event, command staff is going to already be involved in that. So more often we will be the ones that are in contact with the incident command, with ODM if it's a larger situation. But yeah, all public safety employees can make that contact with dispatch.
Announcement. Is that also initiated through your department? Is the fire department also able to do that? How does that work?
So again, a lot of that's controlled through the dispatch center. So we are, well, like Deputy Chief Fisher just mentioned, we're talking with the ODM because they received some grant funding to improve the warning and alert sirens throughout the county. And so we're working through them to see how that applies to Louisville. If it would be a replacement of our existing infrastructure, there would be additional sirens, things like that. But all those emergency notifications are done through the county dispatch center. So we don't have the capability to initiate that type of alert without their assistance. We can certainly get onto the Everbridge system. We can push out the alerts if necessary. We've all gone through that training as command staff to be able to access that system, designate certain polygons if necessary, and be able to do it in a backup feature. But more often than not, dispatch is already prepared. They're more efficient with it, and they can push that information out quicker.
Thank you again for not answering that, but just all the work you guys do. I really appreciate it. Go for it.
I
Make it
guess
good.
the challenges.
your last. I mean, first and foremost, let me express my gratitude for the work that you and your team do. And especially your approach to education first, being visible in the community as the parent of a young child. Seeing your officers, you know, at the school starting and they're out there because parents speed to beat the bell. They're the worst, right? But just humanizing officers and standing out of the squad car and saying hi to the kids, the ice skating, like these things make a huge difference in how people, even the little people, feel safe, right? So thank you for that approach. It's appreciated at all levels. My question is, you mentioned the our current EV. You mentioned exploring options for EVs, maybe replace, does it go out to calls or patrol or whatnot? Where did you land? Where are you at right now with that?
So I think that where we kind of landed is, as a patrol vehicle, it doesn't necessarily fit our needs as well as like an Explorer or a larger type vehicle, which is why we're looking at the Blazer EV, and it does come in a police package. So the Blazer has a more of a similar size to the Explorer. It's bigger, because I think that's the biggest concern that we have is, you know, it does not fit all of our officers in full gear. So a select group of officers that actually fit in that vehicle, that are comfortable in that vehicle, are the ones that drive it. So it's not, and then kind of the backseat area is very, very confining with, you know, the equipment that's back there and transporting individuals in that, it becomes a little bit of an issue. So I think as far as its functionality, the functionality we've had no concerns about. The battery life is sufficient. We have a charger at the station, which we're able to continuously keep it charged. And you know, we haven't had any prolonged events. So that's one of the things we haven't really been able to test, where we have that vehicle, let's say on a perimeter or on traffic control going for 8 or 10 or 12 hours. You know, with the emergency equipment running, like I don't know what that looks like, but on a day-to-day patrol, just the average life of a patrol car, it seems to fit in terms of functionality and its operations. It's just a little bit too small. So I think the route we're going to be looking at is more of the SUV style.
I feel like I see the same officer in it every time. Like,
Yeah, that's probably true.
This makes sense now.
It's probably it's
Thank you. Great work. Being with your team.
But not just the presentation. And I think it's very important for perhaps one of the most important services that we have. There's been a comment that I see. It's just not a core service. And that's not the way we're seeing it, at least as I understand by anybody. Community safety is pretty much the bedrock or over which we lives here, and if you don't have that, creating the quality of life. I also want to say that I saw the clip piece. I was incredibly proud in 2018 when they came with this. That was like a huge deal. And it was explained, Chief explained it in some detail because it's a massive process and it's a huge team effort. And I'm glad you did it again in 24. Professionalizing, continue. It's something I know folks take a great deal of pride in. They should too. Like Councilmember Hammond, the model you guys do just fabulous. And I gotta tell you, when I went, not too long ago, swearing-ins, at any rate, the chief made a very special point of it, but it was fairly obvious from the descriptions of each of those that you've done a remarkable job. Hiring from to make the enforcement of America more area. And that means a lot. And so I would say that's the questions that I have sort of fall into out. Some of the questions sort of asked, but some of them at the end of 4 buckets. One of them, I want to pick up on something you said about, because I've heard concerns here. My experience with the department over the years is very incredibly helpful when it comes to council. But I'm concerned that you're competitive. You said you want to be a place where people want to be officers and want to stay officers. I know we do a remarkable job of training the community, which I know for families of officers is huge, but you have enough resources to be able to pay your people competitively to attract good folks and not see them off years.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. It's you know, departments, directors, we're always wanting more people, more resources, but I think that, so we did conduct a staffing analysis. Actually just prior to my arrival, it was conducted the end of 22 and the beginning of 23. It showed that we were, in terms of the level of service delivery and what we would like to achieve, like we were at less officers than what would be. And that was going to that took in a lot of different factors, such as proactive time, different use, different services. So, you know, I presented a potential growth strategy to try to increase the number of authorized officers so that we could continue to offer higher levels of service. There's a desire to expand opportunities. We want to be a part of the Board County Drug Task Force. Currently, we don't have the staffing to be able to do that. So we're losing some of these opportunities because we don't have our core control group at a level where we're comfortable to start moving people to specialized areas. The other part is, you know, we are in a bidding war with other departments and other agencies across the region. We are our own worst enemies in that regard because other communities that are very nearby are now offering pay and compensation packages that are significantly better than ours. Deputy Chief Fisher is on top of that. He's done a report and an analysis of compensation packages from across the region. We are pretty far behind everybody else. And so we are trying to sell quality of work life, the quality of the community as our #1 primary recruiting tool. Because if it's simply a dollar for dollar comparison, we are significantly lacking. We're lacking towards the higher, like the last few steps of our pay scale. So when you're looking, you know, prospective candidates looking at departments, you know, in our area, the pay range is less in Louisville than it is in other departments. And so that does become a recruiting challenge. Like I said, we've had to kind of refocus our strategy to say, look, you may not be paid the highest, but you have a great supportive community. It's a very good working environment. Work pace is going to allow you to build relationships, and you have a fantastic command staff. So that is our selling point. Like, we're supportive and yeah. So that's I mean, that's frankly the situation that we're in, and we're trying to work through that. And obviously we're working with city manager's office and HR to say, how can we potentially address this? Because there is a gap. There is a significant difference in terms of other communities and what we pay our officers.
I heard it, that we are not just not competitive, but that a huge number of jurisdictions in Colorado are doing that.
I mean, frankly speaking, we are last in our region. We are the bottom paid department in this area. And it's a survey of about 40 different agencies. 37. So we are last, I think we're second to last, depending on how you draw that map.
That's something we'll have to.
Yeah, and like I said, so we're competitive, and I don't want this to, I mean, I don't want this to sound too dismal. We are competitive, entry level and cadet. We are paying similar wages and we have good benefits. But where we run into the significant deviation is probably about step 3 or step 4 out of our 6-step plan. So the top end officers in other communities are paid significantly more. And so what that means is we'll have somebody for 3 to 4 years. Now they're like, well, I can go to this community and make significantly more. And it's nothing against the department or the community, but they're like personally be paid more to do a similar job in some other communities. So that's what we're experiencing. And I think that's, you know, again, it's a sensitive topic because I don't want it to appear as like we're negative or bitter about it, but it's the reality of the world that we're in. Like I mentioned, you know, we're competing with departments that are putting money towards getting top candidates to stay. It's that retention. We can get people in the door, but what can we do to keep them? So that's where we're using opportunities, diversity and assignment. Trying to.
All right, but are you seeing upticks, pretty stable downward numbers in mental health calls? And I mean by that, calls that involve some really significant component of mental health crisis. It can be criminal, it can be all kinds, they're all over the map, but what are you seeing?
Yeah, so a lot of that's going to be anecdotally. I think that we partnering with the co-responder group is going to be great because we will have statistical data on population served, the number of calls and the usage of that service. Since its implementation in April of last year, we saw the number of calls in which they were able to respond and intervene. Those consistently went up month after month. So I imagine the need is there. We're seeing the increase in those numbers of just overall mental health wellness calls. So I think I'll have a better answer for you once we look at kind of a full year's worth of data, but the trend has been, yes. We're using, but now we have a tracking mechanism in place, whereas before we may not have been able to track that data.
So we can ask next year. You know, among kids in the community, it's always concerned about how policing is affecting kids and not just their perceptions of what kinds of problems getting into. And I shouldn't just say kids, but young people, because they're going to be out and over 18 soon enough. What kinds of trends are you seeing with?
I know that majority of last year we were seeing a lot of fake IDs being used at dispensaries, and I think that we had an officer that actually took that follow up on, so I was doing quite a bit of following up and issuing citations and things like that. So we had a period of about several months in which the dispensaries were calling us on fake IDs and people were trying to use these fraudulent IDs to purchase marijuana. So that was kind of a trend that I would attribute to younger adults, those under the age of 21 or 18. Outside of that, I don't know of any other significant trend. Certainly, like you mentioned, the e-bike stuff, traffic, but that would be the one that comes to
Yeah, we have great kids here. It's really nice. It's like a lot of things. It's just better. So we got really good kids here. So they're not out causing all kinds of trouble. A lot of it sometimes self-harm kind of activities like that. Doing things that's not is good for them. It should be good. But I can't really think of anything E-bike safety is really most paramount from a traffic standpoint for our young people coming to and from school, getting to and from school. You know, that interaction, pedestrian vehicle interaction, bicycle interaction. It's concerning to us for sure, but you know, other than that, in terms of crime, our kids are not.
How about one thing that I heard when I was visiting from the prosecutor was that more kids than she had seen in a long time that had bought vaping, say, like psychedelics on and getting busted for that. She was very surprised that that was a thing. She talked to herself. Anyway, have you seen much of that? She is in a lot of different jurisdictions.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen a lot of it. You know, the internet is a challenge for a number of different things for youth and adults. You know, it's a whole e-commerce environment there. So pretty much anything is available online. So it's not a challenge.
Yeah. Fentanyl, you mentioned. Is there anything that, well, I'll get to this. Domestic violence. How are you seeing better statistics than the COVID? National statistics were up, I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I haven't looked at that statistical data. I do know that we've taken a lot of proactive steps in improving our domestic violence investigations. We are in the process of partnering with the district attorney's office to create a lethality assessment process at our other jurisdictions in Boulder County are already doing that. We do have an officer who has taken some specific domestic violence investigation training. He's kind of reviewing the cases and making sure that they are investigated properly. We're working with victims advocates as well, to try to address domestic violence, but I don't know the statistical data looks like pre-2020 and today.
You talked a minute ago about what you have updated or haven't. I didn't realize that's crazy. There's changes that we could make based on the Uniform Traffic Code. Is that something that concerns you all? Or are you pretty comfortable?
I mean, I guess from my perspective, I feel okay with it. I feel like it's contemporary. A lot of it follows the state law of traffic code anyway, and so there's a lot of correlation there. So if our municipality does not have a specific violation that we need to charge, the state does, we have that ability. I've not heard any feedback, and I think Division Chief Miller might mention that better, but I've not heard any feedback about, hey, it would be really nice to be able to move this charge into municipal court. That's correct. Yeah, I'm not sure.
Okay. Are there any bills in the state legislature?
So Deputy Fisher and I, we regularly attend Chiefs Association legislative updates every Tuesday. You know, so we do follow a lot of the bills that are kind of going through the legislature. I don't have anything on top of my list that's overly concerning. I think that, you know, we certainly have talked about like mental health, some of that process. I know that Senator Motley is sponsoring some legislation to kind of address mental health response and some of those resources. But I don't have any specific topic that I'm really concerned with, but we're certainly monitoring.
I kind of was sort of last slide, which is you know, what council do
So, you know, a lot of it is just the recognition of the officers and staff, and I do appreciate, you know, what we brought officers to the law enforcement appreciation Day proclamation coming out the dais and shaking hands and thanking them for their work. I think that goes a long way. As we look at, you know, initiatives and things that we're going to present to you, like, you know, there's always that criticism of, well, council didn't approve it, so we must not like us, and we can manage that side of it, but. I feel like, you know, I have a great relationship with council. I feel like, you know, we're approachable and I appreciate questions and the interaction that we have routinely. And so I really feel like just continuing with the lines of communication, really setting that vision for what the police department should do, should look like. You know, setting those priorities, really giving us that, I guess, where would you like us to go? Because you know, sometimes ambiguity leads to some frustration because like we may be working on one initiative that really is low level for you, in terms of importance for you, but we're spending a lot of time doing that when we should be spending time on something else. And so I think that communication in that direction is as we progress through the year, open to discussion and answering questions and doing the research that's necessary so you can make an informed decision on initiatives or the efforts that we're putting.
Thank you very much. It's been for any follow-ups. Taking your time.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
So, why don't we let you? Cybersecurity, I don't know if you're saying that.
No, I won't be staying.
Look at 8 o'clock.
All right, I'm right in as I'm driving.
Why don't we take a couple of minutes?
Yeah.
Couple of minutes to change out.
Right, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Yes.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No,
sorry. Whatever we're doing.
Thank you for everything. Wonderful system. City of Louisville.
Those numbers.
I know.
You're in.
We're Jeff.
Yes.
Oh, they did. Oh, yeah, no, well, so the point is, the idea is that was going to be presented to Diana when she got here. That the staff analysis of the plans in place. So that's what he has been working on. And documenting the red, and that's going to be. Oh, I can send it to you.
Yeah.
Sorry, that just which is awesome. I can email it to you tomorrow.
Yes.
I mean, you're the first council.
Tell me what you want.
Yeah, there's one. Right, yes.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's just.
Let's show you some love, right?
Got all my little sugars.
Lighthouse too.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's.
All right. Wait. Why is this not working? Continue to allow them.
Reasonable line.
Right, let's get back to it.
Okay.
Meeting inside.
Bacon,
uh-oh.
Someone's focus in my face. What about you?
Yeah.
Everything's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's a troll. It's not that either.
All right,
All right. Get back to it and. It is, works.
But the timing was perfect. You could see the internet connection unstable throughout the whole meeting.
Well. Okay, who's gonna be council member? All right. Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having us tonight, to council and. We're really happy to be here. We're excited to talk a little bit about cybersecurity and how it impacts us here at the city of Louisville. We're gonna talk through some, oh, and my name is Colleen Bennett. I'm the director of IT. Daniel Woolridge is here as well. He's our senior network engineer. Daniel has been, in IT for roughly 20 years. 20 years of experience in everything from technical troubleshooting to in-depth cybersecurity and actually helping other cities come back from ransomware attacks. So we here at the city of Louisville gave Daniel back roughly in the city of Lafayette. He was kind of us, if you will, when they had their ransomware. And so he really helped and kind of come back better than ever. So his expertise and his background in this is substantial. But he was at the city prior to that as well. So we're very lucky to have him back. So we're going to talk through cybersecurity. What is cybersecurity? Why it's important to the city of Louisville. We're going to talk about some wider trends within local government and government throughout the United States. And we're going to talk through some of the things we've been working on here at the city, some of our current projects, and some of our future efforts that we're trying to work on. So what is cybersecurity? We always talk about it. I think everyone's heard the words cybersecurity, but what does that really mean? It's a practice. So it's a practice that includes a lot of different things. It includes everything from making sure that we have no unauthorized access within our network. It includes us protecting endpoints like our computers and databases and servers. Internet of Things devices. There's several things in this room that are connected to the internet right now. All about making sure that those are not doors for a bad actor to come in and take over our network. It's also about protecting data. So when we talk about ransomware, we're talking about the hijacking of data. That is when an organization or a bad actor comes in and hijacks our data. We have quite a bit of it. We have social security numbers, we have resident data, we have PII, we have water and wastewater plants that are ran off of what we call SCADA applications. And we also have police data. So all of that is core infrastructure, critical infrastructure that we are running at the city. and that we are trying to secure and make sure that we keep safe. It's also incident response, so it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we will be compromised. And it's important to note that how you react to those, how you prepare for situations like that matters a lot. So those who are unprepared, who are not properly planning for events, are going to have a harder time recovering if they can recover at all. They may have to just completely rebuild and start from scratch if they are not preparing well on the front end. All the way up to you could be back and up and running within a couple of days if you're properly planning and preparing for an event. So really the choice is yours on how we prepare and how we plan here at the city, but we want to be proactive with that. It's also about developing policy, not only for the employees. So making sure that every employee understands their role in cybersecurity, creating a culture of cybersecurity. But it's also about making sure that our policies and what we do in IT are replicable. We can make sure that we're doing industry best practices, industry standards, and we're keeping up with those here at the city. And it's also about training. So every employee is a part of cybersecurity. They are a big role in it. And so making sure that we train employees and make sure that they're prepared for those things that look weird, that and by everyone's some of the critical reasons why we care about cybersecurity. We're a small or medium-sized organization, and many times small and medium-sized organizations do not have the proper resources allocated to cybersecurity, and bad actors know that. So it's important that we stay ahead of it and that we protect our data. We protect our financial records and addresses, social security numbers, water data, lease records, all of those are stuff that we host secure and try to make sure that we are constantly ensuring are protected. We want to make sure that we have a continuity of service. So when you have a cyber emergency or a cyber event, it can really disrupt emergency services. PD was just in here. Each cop car is equipped with, I don't know, anywhere from 25 to 35 different devices that they are utilizing that could maybe stop working in the event of a cyber incident because they can no longer connect, they can no longer do their job because they have no ability to do whatever that device does. And our water systems are also a highly sought after critical core infrastructure that we are supporting in IT. So water plants are ran with very few people, and that's because a lot of the devices that are operating the water plants and wastewater plants are technology. And so they're connecting back, they're giving readings, they're putting in chemicals, and all of those devices need to be secured. Ransomware, I've already talked about, we'll talk a lot about ransomware tonight. That is the hijacking of data. That's when bad actors come into your network, they encrypt your data and your applications, and they make them unusable to everyone. We want to make sure we're prime targets for it. We'll talk through a bit more about local governments here in Colorado that have had recent incidents. But it is out there, it is prevalent, and it is something we're always trying to prevent. We're also trying to secure critical infrastructure, so utility and water systems, emergency services, but also our permitting system. You know, how do people get their their houses built and properly permitted? All of those things are things that we provide to community members, and we support technology that helps them do their day-to-day jobs. We also want to make sure that we're in keeping public trust. So, you know, when you have an event happen, you will lose trust within the community, and we can't afford to do that. We want to make sure that we're keeping their data secure. So this is a really busy slide, and I almost hesitated to put it on here, but I thought it was really important to note. So this is a 6-month span in time. And this is cyber events that have happened throughout the country in 6 months to water plants, to wastewater, food and healthcare organizations, and also just, you know, local government. So this is a 6-month span of this happening, and you can see there's 36 incidents that have happened where there's an event. So it's happening quite often. It's happening frequently, and we want to make sure that we're protected against it. Just to kind of highlight some of the Colorado cyber attacks that maybe most of you might be aware of or maybe not. CDOT had an incident back in 2018. I think it was $2 million that they ended up spending to rectify the situation. It happened by a proof of concept. A department was doing a new technology. They needed a server spun up, and IT actually broke their protocols in how they spun up the server, and they were attacked within the same day and taken over. The city of Lafayette is obviously one that I think most of you have probably heard about. They had a ransomware attack in 2020, which is also the one that Daniel helped assist in recovery on. They lost everything. And so we have a city employee that used to work at Lafayette. And I asked her, I was like, what was that experience like for you? Because I know the IT side of it, but I wanted to hear from an employee, what is that like? And from her, she said, I was unable to do the bulk of my tasks and work from July through November. Residents called about their water usage, their bills, emails they had previously sent about various issues, tap fees, statuses of development, and reviews and construction projects, and most employees had access to nothing. All software was gone. Lucidity, which is their asset management tool, Microsoft products, MyGov, Tyler products, and Razorfish, all of which are products that we have as well, were gone, and they had no access to emails, drives, or files. So I think just imagining what that would be like to do your job without the core services that you're used to having was really beneficial to the level of service the city was able to provide to their community. Wheat Ridge also had an incident. They were able to recover, and just to know, Lafayette built back almost from the ground up. Everything they built back way better. They spent about $2.4 million right away on investments in cyber and also software that was more secure. So they had to do it, whether they did it on the front end or the back end, they had to do it right away to better themselves and make sure that they were good to go for the future. The city of Wheat Ridge had a similar ransomware attack, but they only lost 4 months of data. So they recovered back. They still had months able to recover almost all of their data from 4 months back. The Colorado Public Defender's Office just had a recent event, and then the Aurora Public Schools in 2025 is the one that I want to highlight. So they had an incident in January, and I think the incident happened on Tuesday. They were completely shut down, and by Friday they were back up and running. So what that tells us and what we can take from that is that they had good procedures, they had good backups, they had good practice in place, they were ready to respond to an incident, and they had planned out what would happen if this happened to them. So that's a really great, I think I would like to learn more about what they did, because I bet they have great lessons learned about all the things they had done on the front end to make sure they could get up and running within 4 days. So some cyber facts, it's known that end users are the biggest risk because they get lots of emails, and we'll talk about that. But phishing is still the most common attack vector. So it's the most likely way that we're going to be hacked. We're going to receive an email. It's going to look really advantageous. You're going to click on it. You're going to do your thing. You're going to put in your credentials, and all of a sudden we're compromised. We know, and the data states that if you do trainings, quick trainings that are not long drawn out trainings where you lose concentration from employees, that we can reduce the risk of an incident up to 70%. We get them thinking about, ooh, what if I click on this, or something doesn't look right here? And the quicker they can let us know that something's not right, the faster we can respond to whatever that might be. Or we can reduce the risk.
This is your reminder to do your new geotraining. Council members too, who are not immune to these.
You're actually more likely to get them. Your names are out there. Your voices are on the audio in this room right now. Somebody can take a clip of this audio and become you. That's the fun AI side of this, right? And you can sound very convincing to an employee asking them to move money around. those are real things that happen, and those are some of the trainings that we have that we're talking through, that are sent out to employees each month to, hey, stop. If you aren't sure of what somebody's doing, phone and call them a separate way or respond to them in a different way. We're trying really hard to help employees understand that, because there have been events, there have been hundreds of thousands of dollars transferred from municipalities to bad actors right here in the state of Colorado, recently, where people have accidentally broken protocol because somebody important has asked them to do something, but it wasn't that person. So, and obviously whenever possible, implement multi-factor authentication. I was listening to the FBI and an agent from the FBI retired speaking not too long ago, and he asked the entire room, how many people in this room, and don't answer the question, but how many people in this room don't have multi-factor authentication set up on their own personal email accounts? And how many times are you sent something to ask you to verify who you are in your email? And what happens if that's compromised? So just not anything to answer, but just something to get you thinking, like it's not just for work, it's personal as well. And it can be absolutely horrific to have to go through an event if you have your identity stolen. So insider threats. So this is another kind of data set. Like 80% of all incidents are made worse or happen because of employee mistakes. So it's always good to know when those things happen, to know quickly. And we want to know very quickly what's happened, and we want to help. But the other stat that I think is interesting is that we are seeing an increase in malicious insider threats. So that means that somebody is intentionally helping a bad actor and is actually helping and directly helping on purpose the incident happen. And that's happening 25% of the time now for incidents.
It's not, it's Louisville, no, it's
The industry as a whole. No, we haven't had any of this, thank goodness, that we know of, and we hope not to, but it is something where kind of improving the trust model, if you will. It's called a zero trust model. If we improve giving the access that somebody actually needs and nothing more is what we want to try to do. So that we're not giving out too much access to someone and they have access to something that they don't need, or maybe it's a quarter of the time it's happening where they are helping criminals. So we just want to be careful of that. So let's do some facts about the city of Louisville. So this is our firewall in the past 30 days. So 250,000 attempts have been to connect to our VPN, so to connect to our network have happened in the last 30 days. I was kind of generous in the 5,000 number. I would say less than 5,000 of those are actual city employees trying to attempt to VPN in and do their work. These are bad actors. These are people trying to infiltrate and get into our network. We block anyone from in the United States from entering. So if you ever travel outside of the country, you can't get in unless you tell us that you need in. But we try to do these things to minimize that, but it's still, people are still trying. People are trying any way that they can. We've blocked over 2 million attempts to infect, compromise city systems. We've evaluated and acted on 8.3 million potentially malicious connections. So that's just in the last 30 days. And there's been 5.1 terabytes of network traffic evaluated. So we have a lot of traffic coming in and out of our network. A lot of different things are connecting and using data. So I thought the email is really interesting because we have about 100,000 emails sent to 300 inboxes in the city of Louisville per month. Of those, 20% pretty much are blocked or requesting advanced protection or quarantined, saying, and quarantine means you as an employee look at this. It might be an email that's correct, but there might be something wrong with this, and we're asking you to have more caution around that. So about 20% of our emails are blocked or not coming through every month. Arctic Wolf is a partner of ours. So we partner with an organization called Arctic Wolf to provide us with managed security operations center. So if I were to have a 24/7 shop, because bad actors do not sleep, and they usually infect you in the middle of the night, on the weekends, on holidays, all of those really inconvenient times. If I were to staff that and have that on site, that would be millions of dollars that we would be investing in to provide 24/7, 365 support for constant monitoring of our environment. Arctic Wolf does this for us, and they are a partner with us. They have sensors within our environment. They are constantly monitoring our traffic. It's not just the sensors, but it's actually people as well. So we met with them this morning, and they provide us with, you know, a lot of data and information that bring IT to the meeting. We need to fix that. So, again, yeah, it's the laptop, because that's its points. Anyway, we have 4,310 vulnerabilities. Of those, we've mitigated 1,875 of them. So almost 2,000. We've accepted 81. We've confirmed false positives on 10 of them, and we have 2,200 that are remaining. So there's a lot. This is us going in. We are evaluating, reviewing these, and confirming. Like, this is one at a time kind of stuff that we're constantly reviewing. Today I found out that they're raising higher and faster than we are able to mitigate, but we're doing the best job that we possibly can, making sure that we're hitting the high and the critical vulnerabilities and risk for the organization.
What sorts of things are this?
Could be anything since patch that Microsoft has released. These numbers are very flexible over time. You can look at it day to day and change. But it could be a patch, it could be a piece of software that's misconfigured, could be somebody installed a piece of software that's known vulnerable that we haven't gotten the report that software is on the network yet to go and remove it. Arctic Wolf has identified it. The remaining 22 items for the most part are small settings that Arctic Wolf would like us to set on individual machines. Problem is, if you're going to set that setting industry with like system wide, you review it and make sure it's not an impact. So each of these take time to sit down, understand exactly what that setting is. And Arctic Wolf can only provide you so much information. They don't necessarily know what the impact's going to be in the organization setting that setting, but that is best practice to turn that one specific item that they have found on.
So what are we doing here at the city of Louisville to improve our cybersecurity posture? The frameworks that we follow are industry frameworks called NIST, and the Center for Internet Security also has a framework, and we kind of go back and forth between both of those, evaluating the different frameworks and deciding what risks we're willing to take, what risks we have to take, or how we're going to mitigate risk and resolve issues. So we follow these frameworks. These are, you know, national frameworks that other organizations follow. And we work with our partners to try to work on that. So we work with an organization and partner with an organization called Rule 4. They are a local Boulder County-based organization that is phenomenal. They are cybersecurity experts. They have helped many of the organizations we were just talking about recover from their incidents and cleanse their environments so that they are good to go and they don't have a ransomware attack. Like, if you don't find out what is causing the ransomware attack in your environment and you just go spin everything back up again, you're just going to get hit again. So they help organizations do that. But they also help us on the front end. So they help us create and implement and test our incident response plan. They have given us guidance on what others are doing, what the industries, what they're seeing. And they help us work through the NIST and CIS and frameworks to decide how we're going to implement what we need to implement first. There's hundreds of different things, if not thousands, that we need to prioritize or do. So we have to decide where we put our attention. We also partner with SIPA. SIPA is a Colorado state internet portal authority. They are essentially an organization that we can get grants through, we can get funding through. So I applied for grants, I just applied for 2 of them through them last week. And we received CrowdStrike through them and are very lucky to have them as a partner. MSISAC is also another really cool government offering that they kind of share information with us as things are brought out. 0 days are recognized, critical vulnerabilities are recognized. They send that information out to and let us know what we can do to mitigate. So they're constantly kind of giving us and feeding us information. And then we have Seagate as well, which are the other government IT agencies that are out there throughout the state of Colorado. We come together, we share information, we provide resources to each other. You name it, we're out there to try to help each other. So we're all kind of taking and giving from that organization. Some of our recent cybersecurity efforts, I think, when I came on board, actually the same day that Chief came on board, the Chief of Police, and so almost, it's been less than 2 years. I think one of the first things I did was go to hire a senior network engineer and make sure that we had a strong networking understanding on our team. Because when I got here, I was like, wow, we can't do cybersecurity well if we don't have someone who truly understands networking and is just a brain and analysis whiz at that. So Daniel came on board and both of us, I think it was pretty clear that we both wanted to go in a very different direction than where we were for cybersecurity when I got here. I have been incredibly grateful to all of you for, I think, believing in us and some of the requests that we've had come through for funding and ensuring that we are able to invest in cybersecurity the way we want to. So we re-implemented multi-factor authentication. We did not like how it was implemented the first time around, and we re-implemented the tool. We isolated and upgraded all the servers in our SCADA environment for water and wastewater. So they were actually, at the time, there were some of them still connected to the domain, which means if we were hacked here, people had a direct access to our water plant system. So we separated that out and no longer have that issue. And they have a whole different other set of security policies and practices that they have to go through painfully, but it is industry best practice. And we do work with them and partner with them to ensure that we make it as least painful as we can. We did do a .us to .gov transition, and if some of you have been here with emails for long enough, you may have been a part of that. But .gov is more secure, so
No problem, child.
but she was very on board. So she was actually our guinea pig. She let us test everything on her and
It worked.
try it out and say, okay, it's good for you. I think we could do this for everybody else. Yeah. But that helps us. .gov is actually, it's hard to get a .gov account. You have to prove that you're a government entity and you can only get money handed out by the government. So those are just a little way to make sure that we're just a little more secure. We did start our partnership with Rule 4 and we started our engagements with Rule 4. We implemented a security issues risk review team meeting. So before this, we weren't really talking about those risks. They were kind of over there in the corner. We just, gosh, they're over there. Well, no, they're going to be front and center. We're going to talk about them as a team. We want to talk about what they are as we find them and identify them. We want to put them on our risk log and identify ways that we're going to resolve them. And we work with Rule 4 on that as well. So we also have, we implemented Barracuda spam filtering. So the email filtering that we were talking about, the 20% that gets filtered, that's from Barracuda. We did implement CrowdStrike. That's an interesting one because most of the time you would not know anything about CrowdStrike, but I think everyone in this room probably has heard that name. But I also think it's a really interesting representation of an event that happened. It maybe wasn't a bad actor that did it. It was a partner, a trusted partner, created an event, a cybersecurity event essentially, and we had to respond to it. And our city was able to respond to it within 1 day. We had everyone back up and running, versus other organizations that more support than we do. and funding, and they had days and weeks, and I think that actually maybe says, hey, like, were they as prepared for any kind of event out there that could happen as they possibly could be? I think it actually says that we were pretty prepared. It also helped that, 3 weeks before it, I think we had actually practiced our incident response and our planning. And so we are actively doing those things to make sure that we can respond as quickly as we can to events as they happen. Our Arctic Wolf partnership started this past year. We have Veronis. So Veronis actually monitors behaviors of end users. And it learns how you behave as an end user. And so when you behave in a way that's not normal to your behavior as an end user, it tells us. And it lets us know that this user is acting odd and they're accessing files that they don't normally access in servers that they don't normally access. And those are all things that can give us tips to letting us know that somebody might be snooping around in our environment with credentials and they shouldn't be. So that tool helps us. It also would help us if we had an event, be able to trace back the event and let us know exactly what the bad actors did enter and access, and would also help us know that do we need to provide identity theft protection information for community members or not, because they didn't access the data that we thought they did. We'll be able to see all of that with that type of tool. We have invested quite a bit in backup, and we continue to evaluate our backups because backups are how we can come back from an event. We also refreshed our communication system. So our MyTel phone system was replaced. We did an entire phone system replacement of old technology that can be away because it can't be patched anymore. It can't be, secured any longer. It's a way for bad actors to get in. So we replaced that. We also implemented a network monitoring tool to monitor the traffic on our network. And salamander badging was implemented. So access control, physical access control, is a big deal for cybersecurity. If they can access locations that they should not be able to access, or bad actors can get into server areas or water departments or police departments with records and criminal justice information, we don't want that. So we partnered with PD and HR and implemented the badging system. We also refreshed our servers and our switch replacement. So having old technology that can no longer be updated or supported is a huge issue, and it's just it's a best practice in cyber hygiene to make sure that you're keeping your environment up to date and refreshed. We also, thank you very much, were able to fully fund PC replacement for the first time since I don't know if there's a history on it, but I don't think it was ever fully correctly funded. We had PCs that had not been replaced for 10 to 15 years in our environment. We now only, we have pretty much fixed that. So that's a good thing. We have also enhanced our firewall licensing, and we conducted some VM upgrades as well. So virtual machine upgrades. We are continuing, and this is a constantly changing agile environment, in my opinion. Some of the updates that we're going to be doing in the near future are our VPN consolidation. We are going to a next generation VPN solution called Zscaler. We'll be implementing that for all of our users in the coming months. This is one that most people don't think of, but printers are actually a nice little way for bad actors to get into your environment. If they are not properly updated and supported and managed, then they can be a risk, and a pretty large one at that. So we are conducting and implementing a managed print solution, which will also reduce the amount of paper we're printing because you have to fob the print now. And so if you have those times when you print something that, oops, I didn't mean to print that, I needed to make that one little edit, you can go in and choose the job that you want to print and also be able to reduce the amount of paper you're printing. We also hope to reduce the amount of printers we have at the city, which will reduce the amount of electricity we're using as well. We are conducting vendor expectation and reviewing all contracts where vendors VPN into our environment. We have several vendors that are coming in and acting on behalf of us, or they're conducting work for us and VPNing into our environment. We need to make sure that their security practices at their organizations are just as secure, or what we expect them to be, because if they're VPN'd in and they are compromised, we're compromised. So we are making sure that we are taking that pretty seriously and working with all of our vendors and our partners to make sure that we're evaluating that and adding that to our contracts. I think that this one is one that will take a while, but a cybersecurity culture is one that I would like to see implemented at the city. And that means that it's not just IT that's sitting around and thinking through how we can be more secure, but it's council and it's all of the departments at the city are having kind of a mindset of, wow, is that a secure solution that I want to implement? Or, ooh, this looks like a really old piece of technology. We probably shouldn't have it on our network any longer. And we start to have that culture of, I'm not gonna click, and that text message that came through on my work phone, I'm not gonna click on. You know, having those thoughts first, I wanna see that happen in our culture. And I think that'll take a couple years to get to. We are implementing a new access control system. All of the little devices that we fob into connect to our network. And so many of them are outdated and no longer supported, and we need to enhance them, refresh them, and make sure that access is properly managed. We are updating the mobile devices in the police cars. Chief was talking a little bit about that earlier. We're partnering with them to ensure that the devices can be replaced appropriately. They were being replaced when the car was replaced, which was about every 10 years. They use those 24/7, 65. So that's not really ideal. And those devices need to work really well. So as technology enhances, we need to be able to make sure that we have proper replacement plans. And then we have a couple grants out there for a password keeper for all of our employees. We in IT use password keeper, but we would like to deploy one for all of the cities so that everyone can have a password keeper so that they're not reusing passwords. And so that they don't have to remember every single password they have and just generate one and store it in a secure location. And then we're also going to be doing and conducting a penetration test, grant pending, where we actually have people ethically hack us and tell us how they got in, and then we fix those solutions. So, yeah. So with that, any questions?
Are we insured for cyber?
We are insured. And I will say that we're insured, but we also need to make sure that we're insurable. And I think that every year we have to fill out quite a bit of documentation and information saying that we are doing certain things. They're asking us more and more questions all the time. I have a narrative now that I've created to help be able to pull and put things into the questionnaires that they're asking. It's getting harder and harder to be insured. But we are insured today.
And so my thought answer, but we are sort of periodically assessing that we're doing everything required by our insurance.
We do every year when we do our renewal.
Yeah. And every year there's different things that come out and they're asking. And yeah, we're trying to stay ahead of that by being proactive versus reactive. That
Yeah, the first multi-factor we installed that we didn't do very well, was installed because we couldn't get our cyber.
and I actually wouldn't answer. So it was funny when that questionnaire happened, like when I got at the city in June, we were, I think, renewing or trying to renew. And I came to Dawn, our risk manager, and I said, I can't ethically answer yes to some of these that we've answered yes to in the past. I don't believe it. I don't believe that we're doing this. So I answered truthfully in a way that I thought. That was a little stressful because, you know, I answered truthfully in a way that I thought was appropriate for us. Because if you answer falsely and you come back, yes, you're insured, but they're going to deny your claim if it comes back with proof that it wasn't correct. So the multi-factor was actually one of them that I said we were re-implementing effective as ASAP, essentially. And they still took us on. So that was the good news of it was that they were still, I think they trusted us even more, maybe. I don't know, I hope so. We were honest with what was actually happening, and then we fixed them. That's why the projects for cybersecurity last year were just so large.
If we had any employees fall for phishing stuff, like.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. In fact, before we re-implemented the multi-factor, I have to tell this story. It's fascinating. It was the week before we implemented multi-factor authentication.
And you forget to push back from some of these people.
And we were actually, yeah, we were getting pushback from them on implementing it on email because we had it on tied to the device, but not on email. So someone had fallen for a phishing scam, you know, they had put their credentials in, did not notify us. And for weeks, the bad actors had hacked into their email, had made all of the emails coming from HR go into a separate folder between them. So they were communicating back and forth with HR constantly without the person knowing it. And we're trying to get that person's paycheck put into some account somewhere else. And so HR, the employee in HR was really frustrated because she kept messaging them and saying, you cannot do it this way. I will not put your paycheck into here. And she got so frustrated that she drove over to the police department.
It was a police officer.
Yes, it was a police officer. Drove over to the police department, stood in front of them, and I think they had a shotgun in their hand for some reason. I'm not really sure why. And was just, yeah, like, I am not putting your paycheck into another account without you following this process. And that process was a secure process. And they had no clue. They were just, okay, you know, all right, I thank you. And so that had happened right before. And it actually, you know, that's why we wanted to change it, was because this isn't really secure. It's not securing it the way we want to. And we want to put MFA on as many things as we can. And also be respectful of how inconvenient it is for an employee to have to do their job. We want to try to work with different departments and partner with them on what is doable here, but also what is still secure and where is that line? So we work really hard with each department and partner with them all the time to try to say, we were just having a conversation today, golf is implementing a new golf system. I'm not sure what the proper terminology is for it, but they helped us be partners. They let us be partners in their decision making. And, you know, I said, this doesn't have multi-factor on it and it's a cloud solution. You know, are you okay with it being compromised and not being able to take payment to set up golf outings and to do all the things that you need to do with your business? Are you okay without the system running? And the answer was no. And so, you know, working with them of like, hey, it's hard to find golf programs. You wouldn't think so, but golf programs are like tons of them out there and none of them have multi-factor, but we found one that did. They were partnering with us, and you know, David Burrell did a great job in partnering with us and making sure that the selection was a partnership. So
No,
Other, yes.
Feel like, first of all, take a breath for that presentation, because I'm so overwhelmed with how complex this is. But on the other side of things, I'm so grateful to have your team finding all the weaknesses and vulnerabilities and then putting modern technology and solutions in place. So thank you for that. Are you part of the emergency preparedness planning group?
yes. Yes, I actually just, we train, and so Kiana and Chief and Public Works, we are, I think outlined as, I don't know what the correct terminology is, but we're in this bucket over here of like required partners in the training and the practices of emergency management. I just submitted a grant for our Emergency Operations Center to try to get technology and AV for our location at the PD. That was, I mean, I think that the funding just ran out for the basement. I'm not sure exactly what happened, but I just submitted a grant for it to try to get that for us so that we can have an actual physical location where we can do our and have emergency operation centers activated when needed.
Okay, that's so good to hear, because when you're talking about the water treatment plant and the
Yeah.
police radio, my brain just started spiraling. I didn't even think about those aspects of emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
Like, you take a system down, you know, so many other things are vulnerable, so, okay, I can go to sleep tonight
Good, I'm glad you can. Yeah.
That's all. I just have a question. Do we have a system in place for reporting incidents that you find to authorities, like federal authorities?
So in our incident response plan, we have the practice. So if you go back to that planning piece, there's in the process, if it gets to this certain point, then it's notification of Secret Service and FBI. Secret Service for anything financial and FBI because they run this, the investigations for this. So yes.
And we do know, I knew you were saying we updated PCs, laptops, and at this point now, all of the old servers have not been updated? Okay, thank you.
Say as a bonus to that for being approved to get those servers replaced and isolating the controls network when that CrowdStrike incident happened. Our plants completely unaffected by it, they just kept running.
That's great.
They were completely separate, and if they had been on our network, water plant would have been down.
Yeah, that was a good security hole that you guys found, really, because I mean, that's been an issue since 2001 in this country. And the fact that we've been vulnerable this whole time, that was a great thing for us.
But lucky, I think Daniel's expertise and his knowledge in SCADA and water plants and control systems that do an operational technology, those things that are kind of, they're not focused on data, they're focused on operating a plant. His expertise in those areas can't be talked about enough. So we're very lucky that we have that on staff. Not everyone is as blessed to have that.
I just want to also thank you for what you've done. You've really brought the city up to date on the security for IT. It's incredible. I have one question. Scott Moore at the police department is offering classes or giving talks about preventing scams to the public in general and to the senior center in particular. Have you given him ideas?
So police so I will say I've partnered with the police to talk through different ideas and things that are happening. The AI side of this is really unfortunate for the public. So when somebody mimics or sounds like your daughter or granddaughter or son, and they're in need and they need emergency help right away. My own grandmother fell for this and gave $3,000 away to someone she thought was her grandson. So this happens a lot, and I think police are very aware of these scams that are happening currently in the communities. They know more about those public scams that are happening, if you will, like the most recent one for paying your tolls. The text for tolls, and so they're probably educating on some more like on the other side of that versus the maybe the business or government side. But we do talk. I have talked with Scott before about those things. I think it'd be fun to partner with Scott more on those. We should.
So I got one of those emails about 5 years ago, from the former mayor.
Right.
Saying, please, I'm in a meeting, please send me gift cards. And
There we go.
send them to whatever. And yeah, and so I texted her and asked her, what is
That was
this?
a great thing to do. Like you went
And she said, I didn't say anything. I'm not.
What are you talking about?
What are you-
Yeah.
And so I deleted it, but I just got another one of those emails. Oh, maybe a month ago. From someone else, and I don't remember who it was, but another council member. And I just deleted it right away because I knew it was.
I wonder why you didn't send me over.
Like actually it wasn't a scam. So, yeah, so I'm still getting that.
Yeah, I think they're getting better too, because usually they're coming from bad actors that are in other countries that maybe the translation with the English.
Yeah,
would
it's
look-
my favorite.
Would look like an issue before, but with AI, they're able to make it
Oh,
look.
yeah.
So those calls to action, you have to be.
Thank you. The only thing I wanted to say was thank you for. That was really to get all of that done. I mean, and it was a whole team effort. I know, and if I could practice it, all those things are so important. And know in a lot of different areas, they're not just public.
Yeah.
All of it. So hats off to you. I mean, I know it was really intense while it was going on. It was an intense day, but because
Oh, it was a long one, but it was, you know, it was, our team actually, we really had fun. We had several new people on our team. And their reaction was, wow, I got to meet so many people in the city. I have so much fun. I feel like I really made an impact, you know, because when people are newer, they're oftentimes learning. And so they were, I think, really excited about.
those are disasters.
Right.
They're,
They
you know,
are.
I'm glad they feel that way. And I mean, you know, my kids did a lot of people, still does, but she had these nights of cast and bonding.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, it's kind of like that, yeah. What did, you said something that was so resonating. Of all the, like, I never thought that something like this would happen from a trusted partner for the first time, you know?
That I think was along the lines, but it's impressive the CrowdStrike would bypass all of the patching processes. And then manage to take down that many people, that large organization, those mistakes don't happen very often.
Yeah.
I should say too that Daniel's the one who worked 24 hours with Microsoft to get nicely together. So he's the one who found
I've
the,
only had to do it twice in 15 years.
found the number to call the right people.
He is the poster child.
See that in there.
But I mean, thank you for like, you know, no news is good news from our standpoint, but what you're saying about making it more,
Robust.
making, yeah, and having the culture be, change. That's a really important aspiration. Unless we got something else, take 30.
Thank you
So,
all. If you have additional questions or anything more, send them to us, send them to me, send them to me and we'll get them answered, so.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
right, motion adjourned.
So, second.